Before we jump in today, I wanted to pause for a moment. This is the last episode of 2025. And if you're listening to this episode as a physician who's been questioning how sustainable your current path really is in employed medicine, I want you to know you are not alone. Every week, I work with docs who are in the same place as you are, who are thinking, how much longer can I do this? Is private practice really for me? Today's episode is not about hype. It's not about telling you to quit your job tomorrow. It's about 6 practical reasons why I believe 2026 may be the right time to seriously consider private practice, and why so many physicians are quietly realizing that the way we've been practicing medicine does not have to be the only option. If 2025 has left you feeling reflective, tired, or curious about what's next, this episode is for you. Hey there, future private practice owners. Welcome to Hanging a Shingle, the podcast designed to guide you through launching your very own medical practice. I'm your host, Dr. Brittany Anderson, and just a few short years ago, I was exactly where you are, dreaming of having my own clinic, and thankfully, I actually launched to a full patient panel and have had the best years of my career in my own practice. But let me tell you, the planning process, Doc, my house was the headquarters of spreadsheets, color samples, late night scribbles, lists, sketches, you name it. I relied on outdated how to start your medical practice books and the incredible kindness of other private practice docs to get me through the process. Trust me, starting your own private practice is totally achievable, and you absolutely do not have to figure it all out on your own. I've done it recently, it's all still fresh, and I'm ready to share the full process with you to make it easier. So let's ditch the overwhelm and apprehension. We've got a practice to plan and a shingle to hang. Let's get into it. Hey docs, welcome back to Physicians Hanging a Shingle. So I am recording this on December 28th. It's going to air on December 29th of 2025. And this is the very last episode of 2025. I started this podcast, Physicians Hanging a Shingle, earlier this year, started in May, and really started with this idea that any doc who wants to can start a private practice. We have done so many hard things in our lives, in our training, in our careers. Starting a private practice to that list is not unreasonable. We have survived all of those hard things we did to get to this point. We all survived medical school, we survived cadaver lab, we survived intern year of residency. So many of you went through fellowship programs and other things as well, and we are doing hard things every day. So is starting a private practice easy? No. Is it doable? Absolutely yes. So I really wanted to end this year of this podcast with this very last episode of 2025. Wanted to end it with something really practical, really honest, and really future focused. As this year comes to a close, a lot of physicians who are in employed practices are reflecting. You may be asking yourself, can I keep doing the same thing for another 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Or you may be asking yourself, is there another way to practice medicine without burning out or without giving up the quality of care that I know I can provide to patients? This episode is not about romanticizing private practice. There are some people who will do that and will tell you that starting a private practice is a cakewalk. Don't believe those people. They are not out here telling you the truth. It's hard, but I don't want to romanticize private practice, but I do want to share my bias a little bit. And that's what I said earlier, that I think any doc can start a private practice if you truly want to. This episode, though, is about practically why I really truly believe that 2026 is one of the best times we've seen in decades to start a private practice, if you do it intentionally. So I want to take a little bit of time today and walk you through 6 reasons that are grounded in what I'm seeing every day. Every day as a private practice owner with other docs coming to me and talking to me about my practice and how we've been so successful in the practice. I've been seeing this as a coach, doing some one-to-one coaching with physicians who are starting their own private practices and are in the launch process and realize that they need a little bit of help to get the practice started off, which is so smart, something that in hindsight I wish I'd done, but I didn't. I figured it out, which I would not recommend anyone doing on their own these days. So I've seen that in coaching docs, and I've also just seen this as a physician working in the community. I've seen this as a leader. I serve on our medical association for our state. I am the current board chair of our Alabama Academy of Family Physicians, and I spend so much time in both of those roles advocating for physicians across the state. And I see these themes kind of woven through my daily life. So I want to walk you through 6 reasons that I believe 2026 is a perfect year to start a private practice. Here's reason number one: patients are actively looking for a medical home. And by medical home, I don't mean some big system. They are looking for a place that they can identify with. Patients are tired. They're tired of rotating providers. They're tired of seeing a different provider every time they go in, whether that is a physician assistant, a nurse practitioner. Patients are tired of it. They're tired of not knowing who they're going to see when they go into their appointment. They're tired of the long waits that unfortunately become part of the system when you've got just this huge number of patients that have to be seen within a short period of time. They're tired of being told that's just our policy. Patients are hearing that over and over at the front desk. They're hearing it from the physician. They're hearing it from the staff otherwise. And these are things that are largely, when you're in an employed practice, are things that are in that policy that are out of your control. And so you may be the one having to tell patients, if you're an employed practice, that this is just our policy. There's nothing that I can do about it. But you know deep down that if it was your own practice, you would do something differently. And patients are tired of feeling like they're a number in a system, like they're a cog in a wheel. And sometimes when you're in this huge system, just like you feel like that as a physician, patients feel like that too. Patients want to build a relationship with a consistent provider in a medical home where they feel comfortable and a place that knows their name and knows their story. That's one thing that I know my patients value so much about our practice, that everyone in there knows them. We're family medicine, so we also know their parents, their siblings, everyone else, and that's just how our practice runs. But patients really value that. And when patients value that, and they see how much you care about your own practice and you care about them and you care about the community, they do the marketing for you, because then they want their family to come see you. They want their friends, their coworkers, people at church to come see you, and they start to market your practice for you. Independent practices provide something that big systems just can't scale well. That is continuity and connection. In 2026, patients aren't asking if they want a personal medical home where they feel comfortable. They're actively looking for it. They just need to know where to find you. So if this is your year and you're thinking about starting a private practice, that is reason number one to do so. Patients are actively looking for a medical home where they feel comfortable. Reason number two is physician autonomy is no longer an option. Autonomy is not about ego. I don't want you to think about it as being, self centered or being selfish. Autonomy in practice in medicine is about sustainability. When you own your own practice, you get to decide how long your visits are, you get to decide who you're going to hire, you get to decide when somebody needs to be dehired in your practice, you get to decide what services you want to offer, and so important, you get to decide how you're going to structure your schedule. And what autonomy does is it allows you to practice medicine that feels really aligned with the life that you're currently living and the life that you want to live in the future. Because here's the truth: physicians who feel trapped in practicing medicine eventually leave medicine altogether. Or what may be even worse is that they stay in medicine and they hate it and they resent it and they dread going to work every day. Private practice isn't about working more, it's about working with intention. And autonomy, as I said before, is no longer an option. And I encourage you not to make it an option for you either. So if there is something in your current practice, if you're at a space where you're listening to this and you're thinking, I don't know, Anderson, I listened to these episodes, I'm not ready for private practice, but I know I need something different. Maybe 2026 is your opportunity instead to go look for another job option, somewhere that gives you perhaps a little bit more autonomy and a little bit more freedom. I'm sure you may not get as much as you would get in private practice, but the goal is for you not to be burned out along the way. Reason number three of why I believe 2026 is a great year to start a private practice, and that's because in private practice, you can finally dictate your income. When you're in an employed practice, you work more. Yes, maybe you may earn a little bit more, but I can guarantee you that little bit more that you earn is only a small percentage of what you're actually bringing in if you're working more. But also in an employed medicine, you may get to where you find yourself working more efficiently and working smarter, and you're not usually rewarded for that. Usually, the reward is that they figure out that you can see patients quicker, get your notes done quicker, so then they start imposing more patients on you that you've got to see. So you're negatively rewarded for working smarter and more efficiently. And also, and this is one of the things that I found in employed medicine, is that you can bring ideas to the table, ideas that are really good, sound ideas, and they're often ignored. The opposite of those is true in private practice. In private practice, revenue is a math problem, it's not a mystery. You figure out what you know you want to bring in, and then if you know what you want to bring in revenue wise, you figure out how many patients you need to see, and you figure out what the charge needs to be. And that's the case if you're in a cash pay practice or an insurance based practice. You've got to make that math really make sense. And the revenue can happen. And this reason that I gave, number three, that you can finally dictate your own income. What I mean by that is you get to determine what you take home. There's not a middleman there who, is taking their cut and sitting in a suit in the C-suite upstairs. What you bring in, you get to determine what happens with that. Now, yes, in private practice, you got to pay the bills and do all the other things, but you really have an opportunity to make that math work. Also, in private practice, efficiency matters. So, unlike when you're employed and you find a way to work smarter and work more efficiently, no one's just piling more patients on you. When you get to where you can become efficient, for me, I get my notes done before I leave work for the day, and I do not think about doing notes another single time when I leave my office. I've learned how to be efficient, and I, in private practice, reward myself by being able to leave work at work to do what I want to do in the evenings, do what I want to do on the weekends. I don't have someone saying, "Oh, Anderson, you figured out how to get all your notes done. Let me add another task onto what you have to do because now you have extra time." That's just not how it works in private practice. And in private practice, those ideas that you were perhaps bringing to the table when you were employed and nothing was happening with them, those are rewarded in private practice because you had no one to say no to you for your good ideas. And I'll tell you in advance, all of the ideas you come up with won't be good ideas, but they're your ideas. And private practice gives you the opportunity to try them out and see if they work. And if they work, fantastic. You implement them into your practice, into your daily practice. And if they don't, you scrap them. You start something else over. Now, starting a private practice doesn't mean instant wealth. What it means is clarity. When you run your own private practice, you know what you need to earn, you know what it costs to run a practice, you know how many patients you actually need to see to make the amount of money that you want to make, and that clarity alone can be life changing. So that's reason number three for considering starting a private practice in 2026, that you finally get to dictate what your income can be. Reason number four is that 2026 is a prime time for us to get to a space where we can combat misinformation. Combating misinformation requires trusted voices. Patients are out here getting medical advice from social media, from influencers, things that depend on the algorithm, and why I'm so excited that there's so many physicians who are now starting to get into this social media space. There are so many other people who are not physicians who are taking up a lot of room, a lot of talking time in this space as well. Private practice docs are uniquely positioned to really counter this. And you may ask why. Well, my answer to that is because trust isn't built in 30-second blurbs on the internet. It's built over time. And when your patients trust you, they listen to you. And when they listen to you, their outcomes improve. So private practice really allows you to educate them without rushing. Nobody is saying that you've got to see, a bajillion patients in a day to meet your quota in some big system. Private practice gives you a time to really correct misinformation with context. So you really get to a place where you know your patients, you build a good rapport and relationship with your patients, and you're able to kind of correct that misinformation that they may be hearing. And private practice really gives you a chance, whether you are in primary care or specialty care, but it gives you a chance to practice preventive, thoughtful medicine. Again, because no one is rushing you, you're not working within this big system. And when you're able to do those things, to educate patients, to correct misinformation, and to practice preventive, thoughtful medicine, that matters now more than any time it has ever mattered in our past, I believe. Reason number 5 for why 2026 is a great year to start a private practice is that small practices are more adaptable. We talked earlier a little bit about systems and how sometimes you can get lost in a big system, both as the physician and the patient sometimes feels like they're lost in the system. But healthcare is changing fast. We all know this. Every year, there are new codes that are coming about, there's new technology. Think about the huge changes that AI has made in how we practice medicine. And there are also new patient expectations. And when you're a part of a large system, I know this from experience, and I'm sure you do too, but in large systems, things move slowly. Things have to go up the chain and then back down the chain and up a different chain. And it's insane how slowly private systems move when we're in a world of healthcare that is changing so fast. But the beauty of being in private practice is that you can pivot quickly. One of the things that I said before and will say all the time, and I mention all the time to my coaching clients, is that we can decide every week. My staff has a staff meeting on Monday during lunchtime, 12 to 1. We can decide that we want to do something in our practice that matches these changes that are going on so quickly in healthcare. And when we leave that meeting at 101, it's in effect. That is just something that you cannot do in a large system. In private practice, you can add new services without months of approval. You can adjust workflows in real time. I can't tell you how often we come out of that Wednesday staff meeting and we have completely overhauled what we've done for the last year as far as our workflow, and it's made us immediately so much more efficient. And also in private practice, you can test ideas without all the bureaucracy. So, like I was saying earlier, all of your ideas won't be great, but they're your ideas. And whenever we come up with something, we always think it's the best thing. The only way you know, though, is to really put it to the test, to put it in action. And private practice allows you to do that. So in 2026, I think adaptability, being able to change with these fast changes that are coming in healthcare, is an advantage, not a bonus. It's an advantage and something that you're given by being in your own private practice. And then the last reason, number 6, is that you get to define success for yourself. Success for you does not have to look like 25 patients a day, 5 days a week, 15-minute appointments. Success for you may look like 3 clinic days a week, spending time with your family, teaching, mentoring, doing community work. Private practice lets you decide what success looks like for you. And that freedom, that is what keeps physicians in medicine long term. So, to counter what I said earlier about physicians burning out and leaving medicine or staying in medicine and being really jaded while you're there, having that freedom keeps you in medicine and keeps you happy while you're there. So let's close this up. I want to go through those 6 reasons again that I think 2026 is a great year to start a medical practice. Reason number 1, patients are actively looking for a medical home. Reason number 2, physician autonomy is no longer optional. Reason number 3, you finally get to dictate your income. Reason number 4, combating misinformation really does require trusted voices. Reason number 5, small practices are more adaptable than big systems. And reason number 6, in private practice, you get to really define success for yourself. 2026 is not about rushing. That is my hope for you, that you don't make 2026 a year that you rush into anything. 2026 instead is about building intentionally. You don't have to open your clinic doors tomorrow, but if you feel like you want something different by the end of 2026, the planning really does need to start now. I'm glad that you found this podcast. I'm glad that you took a little bit of time to listen to this episode today. And I'm excited to be here with you on this journey of starting your own private practice if that's what you decide to do. And I believe 2026 is a wonderful year to do it. If this episode resonated with you, go ahead and think about taking the next step. Start planning, not someday, but now. Take a look at some of the offerings I have in the show notes, like my Plan to Practice digital course or one-to-one coaching, and I would be honored to help you move from idea to clarity without overwhelm. This may be the end of 2025, but it just may be the beginning of something much, much better. And from my own personal experience, private practice is much, much better. I'll be here next week. Bye. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. You are certainly on your way to creating your own medical practice. I want to encourage you along this path and remind you that, again, it is totally doable. You survived organic chemistry. Trust me, you can open a private practice. If you haven't already done so, make sure you download the Private Practice Startup Checklist. There's a link to it available in the show notes. Please also consider leaving a review, and do me just one favor. Share the show with 3 of your physician friends. I'm willing to bet you that at least one of them is considering private practice and could use this information too. And who knows, maybe you can all plan your private practice together. I'll be here next week with a new episode. Until then, take care, Doc.